You have a thing called cancellation. Now, what's cancellation?
Well, basically, it's if you've been in a situation in the past, a speaking situation that you haven't handled well, or you've avoided in the past year, we teach that you should go back after being in the programme, go back to that situation and replace that negative experience and association with a positive one. And an example was, I think it was about 5 years ago, I was on this exact show.
Yeah.
I was not in the settee, but I was over the other side on the stage.
You
I
were
was
performing
singing.
for us, yeah?
Exactly, and you guys asked if I wanted to do an interview, and I avoided the situation. I wasn't really plugged into the programme then, and my speech was at a level which I would never be able to handle this sort of conversation.
It would have been a nightmare for you to do it.
It would have been an absolute nightmare, and so I avoided it, and so this is actually a big thing for me, because I've come back basically to cancel out this situation.
Yeah, this is sort of, you fall off the horse, you get back up on the horse again, even if it's 4 years apart or 5 years apart.
Yeah, and you prove to yourself that you can do it. And you know, this is why it feels great, so thank you for having me.
Well, delighted to have you back, but it must have affected your career.
Thank you.
You know, at the time of Pop Idol, you'd be invited to do all the kids' Saturday morning shows and all the pop shows and all the talk shows, the chat shows, but you couldn't do them. So it must have had some impact.
It was always very difficult because no one was ever able to relate Gareth Gates, the pop star, with Gareth Gates' personality, because there was never really a personality there. I was never able to show people what I was really about, and that for, well, not just for Stammer, but for anybody, is really frustrating, you know. You really feel held back in what you do, and there's so many people on the programme that tell stories that, you know, they're in jobs that they never really wanted to do, but they do it, and they sit at a computer all day just simply because it means that they don't have to talk, when really, you know, they should be elsewhere and doing other things that make them happy.
And you're a funny guy, actually. Quietly, socially, you're a funny guy.
I'm actually a very funny guy.
Yeah. Right? And yet, when you're in the pub, before, you kind of got this treatment. By the time you got your smarter mark out, they'd all moved on.
Well, you know what it's like in a pub. It's all about banter with your mates. The fastest, most wittiest person gets the biggest laugh. Yeah. And I was never able to do that. I'd sort of sit there, I'd be like trying to get my word out, and someone had already say it. And so these days, amongst my friends, I am the funniest out of my friends.
Absolutely.
Which is
I'll testify to that. Hang on a second, Gareth, because there are a couple of people over here that I want to talk to. Niamh, people will recognise you if they've got a good memory, isn't that so? A good recent memory. How would we know you?
You might have seen me in the Rosa Tralee this year.
You were representing Derry.
Yeah.
That's right. You are like Gareth. You're a recovering stammerer.
Yeah, I am, and I also did the McGuire Programme, so it was great to have done that programme. It was always my thing. I wanted to be in the Rosa Tralee. It was my dream. So.
What was it that made you finally do it?
It was actually, I was at university and I was going to be graduating the following year and applying for jobs, and I realised, gosh, you know, it's going to be tough going into an interview situation and competing with people for jobs and having a stammer. So I went for that, and I went in the McGuire Programme then in third year and came off it, and I've been for interviews since. It's been fine, and then I just decided, well, why don't I just do one step further and go for the Rosa Tralee as well.
So for you, that night was a triumph, to be able to talk to Ray and have a good exchange.
Yeah, it was great. Dream come true.
Have you got that job yet?
Yes, I do. A primary school teaching job.
Right, and that would not have been possible really without dealing with the problem. Would you have been as socially disabled, is the way I put it, as Gareth, as we saw Gareth talking to Pop Idol?
No, I wouldn't have been as bad that way, because I could kind of talk to my friends and family. Okay, it was just whenever I met strangers like yourself, Pat, I might have found it a little bit hard, you know, to talk. But
never.
It's okay now.
Now, Michael, you had a stammer for how many years before you did something about it?
I had a stammer, Pat, for 40 years. I stammered very overtly. Every time I opened my mouth, you knew I had a serious problem. I couldn't say my name.
Now, you can put your finger on precisely when it started.
Yeah, I got a severe beating off a nun at the age of 4, and I didn't speak for 3 months. So when I started to speak again, I stammered badly.
Can you remember what you did that merited the beating? What did you do?
I hated school and I hated nuns, and I ran out of school. every morning, and I think it was the third day, ran out and there was this big black nun waiting for me. So
Yeah, her face was white. In those days, most of them were, but she was a big black nun, and she beat you hard.
Yeah, beat me badly.
What prompted you to do something about it after 40 years?
I stammered, and I spent serious time, serious money trying to find a cure for that. And I stopped. And next thing I heard about the McGuire Programme, and it still took me a year. I was the most sceptical person that ever went on the McGuire Programme, because I had seen it all. I'd been there, worn the T-shirt, quacks, you name it. I tried everything. When I went on the McGuire Programme, for the first time in my life, I heard people speaking about stammering from the inside out.
Because all the tutors were stammerers or former stammerers.
Yeah, and they were speaking about emotions, all of this, your perceptions of yourself as a person, as a speaker. I always saw myself as a stammerer first and a person second, because my stammer was right there on my face every time, whether I was asleep or awake, because I was over it. I couldn't say.
So you were defining yourself by your stammer.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you've written a book. What's it called?
The book is called Why I Call My Sister Harry. At the age of 4, I changed my sister's name. My sister's name was Mary. At the age of 4, I changed it to Harry.
Because you could say H and you couldn't say M.
No, M. I couldn't say M. Monica's my wife. How I ever married a woman called Monica, never.
To be quite honest, I think Monica's a lovely woman.
Monica is a lovely woman, yeah. But it's how you change your life, and I've seen some fantastic changes in people, and it's all about your quality of life. Because if you had a son or a daughter who stammered, just imagine the emotional charge that you and your family and your friends would have around that child. And that happens with the teachers, happens with everybody who knows that child.
Now, you are aware of a Stammering Awareness Day, isn't that it?
We're organising the first ever National Stammering Awareness Day, the Ashley Hotel, on the 20th of October. It's on from 9 o'clock and 5:30. Every organisation in Ireland who helps and support people with stammer will be there. It's free. It's the only thing in Ireland now that is free. You'll get a cup of tea and a biscuit in the morning, and a cup of tea and a biscuit in the evening, and anything you want to know about stammering, you'll hear it. Right. And this book is written by a stammerer. It tells you all the perceptions, the mindset, mentality. There's messages there for parents, teachers, speech therapists. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's an unforgettable title, Why I Call My Sister Harry. Absolutely. Michael,
okay.
Handney, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And Gareth, you two are tutoring in the McGuire Programme, is that right? You do a little bit of it?
Yes, I instructed my first course in Ireland last August in Galway. It was fantastic. In fact, Niamh was on the course then, and you've really come on amazingly, Niamh, so well done. I'm instructing a course in November in Galway again. Yeah, and there's courses held all year round.
Yeah. Don't you know that there will be a certain number of people out there who will want you as their tutor, you know?
Well, I will gladly tutor any stammerer. And if you want to get in touch with the McGuire Programme Ireland, I'm sure you can. Sure, there's information.
Yeah, all the information again on our website. It's the easiest thing to do, actually.
Fantastic.
Finally, I should ask you about your music. You still are recording.
I thought you'd never ask.
You are recording. You've an album out there. You've been touring where in Asia?
Yeah, I've finished my third album. It really feels fantastic. This time around, I've really got involved in the writing side of things, and something I was never really given that creative freedom in the past. And yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Asia, and yeah, the album's out. So.
All right. Well, look, it's a pleasure having you on the show at last.
I really appreciate having me and the McGuire Programme on the show, because it really changes people's lives, and so thank you very much.
And you and I have had a cancellation.
We have had an amazing cancellation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.